the hell is going on around here? Pete, why are you even here?
Player! Did you miss me? Did it miss old Daddy Pete? Listen, I realize y'all need me. A negative 204 million? Really, player? In the negatives?
Mr. Grossman, you do realize you're the reason why Bungie's in the state that currently is, right?
Water under the bridge, player. Listen, you need the money. And I need money. Hell, Daddy needs all the money he can get for his Ferrari collection. How else am I gonna take all the ladies out for a ride?
The last time you took the ladies out for a ride is when you took one of our pregnant employees for a ride, and then the next day you proceeded to quote say, "Fat Prego bitches be making my ride look bad," and then you fired her. Truman is the CEO now, Pete, not you.
You think Mr. Over Delivery guy is going to be able to do a better job than old Pete? That's the funny shit I've heard of. Listen, player, come to the dark side. I know exactly what to do to save the Destiny franchise. There's only one thing that can save this dying game. That's right, Star Wars, bitches. That's how you do it. That's right, baby. That's how you get them to eat from the palm of your hands like it's a petting zoo. Time to get to work, boys. It's time to farm the little piggies. Let the force be with you, bitches. Hell yeah, baby. I just bought my sand Ferrari. All the Star Wars money has me filled to the brim. Thanks to those piggies. Buying all the Star Wars cosmetic shit in the store. That's right. And you know what, little robots? Where'd you go? Where'd the little robot? Fuck it. I'll monologue to myself. Every good villain monologues themselves anyways. I think the next crossover will be Dora the Explorer. Except the character will be named Tora. And she'll be a big booty cabal lesbian. That's right. That way we can cross multiple marks and make everyone happy. You know what I'm saying?
On behalf of the Destiny community, Pete, we're tired. And it's time for you to go now, Pete. It's time to say goodbye. What are you doing?
Hey, get back! What are you doing? What'd you do to my beard?
From a galaxy far, far away, Bungie brings Star Wars, another mishandled franchise, into the fold. Two mishandled and downward trending franchises combined to create Renegades.
Why should they come back to play it?
Well, we're waiting.
Bungie's first true collaboration in regard to the mainstream paid Destiny content. When Renegades was first announced, I knew this expansion was probably going to be a cash grab and a last-ditch effort for Bungie to bring in new players outside of the niche that is the dwindling Destiny community. In addition to that, capitalizing on the monetary gains from the diehard Destiny players willing to fork out their wallets for the countless Star Wars themes cosmetics. Well, I was right, but more on that later. I want to say right now, I did not expect that this expansion would be quite the scam, really. And we'll talk more about why it feels like a scam. But in regards to actual expansional content, this feels less of an expansion and more like seasonal content. Renegades doesn't solve many of Destiny 2's long-standing issues, including the fact that it's been awkwardly following the same dilemma as the MCU has since it concluded its Infinity Saga. The same is very true for Destiny 2 and the Fate Saga, with Renegades being the second installment and Edge of Fate being a poorly received first installment. It's safe to say that the Fate Saga is not a successful story and is only going to continue this downward trend set within the Edge of Fate. Renegades feels less like a actual Destiny 2 main story and more like a seasonal crossover filler episode, something akin to what you might see in anime. I'm thinking when Goku and Luffy and a bunch of other anime characters join together for a mini side adventure only to conclude and move back to their normal weekly episodes. That perfectly explains Destiny 2 Renegades. And it feels more of a scam for Bungie to even try to advertise and sell this as a full-priced expansion. Now, it's not all bad. What I was actually surprised by and was very delighted to find out was Michael Salvatore is back and in prime form with some of Destiny's best scores, truly inspired by the world of Star Wars. Salvatore delivers countless soundtracks that make you smile. I imagine if you were a die-hard Star Wars fan, you're eating good. Combine that with the masterfully created cutscenes that continue to show that Bungie is still one of the best in the industry in regard to cinematic delivery.
Look, Darth Vader.
No.
Bungie, give your cinematics team a raise. Now, as for the narrative and the story, we'll talk about that later too. When you think about Star Wars, you think the lightsaber or the Force. Now, I do plan on talking about the loot in its own section of the video. However, I do feel like the lightsaber deserves its own special spotlight. Yes, I know it's called technically the Praxis Blade, but we all know it's the lightsaber. It looks like the lightsaber. It sounds like the lightsaber. It plays like the lightsaber. Guess what? It's the fucking lightsaber. Listen, it's jarring, it's immersion breaking, and it doesn't feel like Destiny. Every time I run a group activity and it's filled with lightsabers, it feels like I'm playing less Destiny and more Battlefront or Jedi Survivors. However, with immersion breaking aside, the lightsaber is actually very powerful and fun. Now, I know we all know that eventually it's going to get nerfed to the ground in the future. But at this moment, you can enjoy satisfying your inner Jedi or Sith desires in Destiny until the next future Star Wars game comes out. Maybe to further disappoint you if you like Star Wars. Kind of like Star Wars Outlaws was a disappointment. But the strength that the lightsaber brings is actually not just in its damage, but rather its customization. Bungie has actually done something truly innovative in the world of exotics. Overall, great with this exotic, providing multiple ways to customize and enhance the weapon itself, from upgrading stats, from faction ranks, from upgrading parts of it with the callus by doing the dungeon, to being able to actually customize the hilts. Granted, the hilts right now are only from the store, but the crystals themselves, there's a wide variety that you can get other than just like the 3 from the store, because technically those are 100% microtransactions, but everything else is 100% earnable in game. That's right. We actually have earnable cosmetics in game. This is something that the community has begged Bungie for years. Not only is the prized Lightsaber a random dungeon drop instead of having to swipe your card, you can also play the end game for cool cosmetics. I do want to give praise where praise is earned. In a world where Bungie has tripled down on the cosmetics in an already paid expansion such as the Edge of Fate, I did not expect Bungie to actually get some of their act together in the cosmetic side of the game. Please do more of this. Bungie, more hype cosmetics that give people a reason to farm and chase without dishing out and swiping the card and dishing out $20 for. Where have I heard that about? Talking about $20, let's talk about those greedy campaign skips. This is the scummiest bullshit I have ever seen, and the most egregious money grabbing scam I've ever seen in video games. Here we are, Bungie continuing the trend, being the greedy little assholes that they are. And guess what? It's almost as scummy as the Metal Gear Survive when they tried to sell extra save slots for $10. Bungie continues to show they are in it for the money and not the community, because there is no other game willing to shove their hand up the ass of the consumer and demand that they pay $20, half the price of the expansion itself, in order to skip one character. That's right. If you want to skip the story and gain access to the endgame activities, or just skip it in general, you have to pay $20, not $5, not $10, total $40 just to pay for the privilege to skip the story. I'm so glad other developers like Digital Extremes are starting to call out and make fun of the shitty consumer choices of Bungie.
Just skip to be able to play the game modes without doing the quest, without having to do all those prerequisites. You can. Now, it's not going to be easy, but it's still going to be very hard.
So
is it $49 or $99?
okay.
How much does it cost to skip?
So the wait
is literally for your friends to tax you into it, so that
And it's
you
a
can play
very
with them.
reasonable price.
So the other group that we're hoping.
But let's go ahead and talk about the campaign itself. First thing, the Tharsis Outpost is a return to form for Destiny. Finally, we have a central hub for an expansion where you can actually go and see other players, which is something we didn't even have for the final shape. Last time we had a actual central hub location was when we were in Neomuna for Lightfall. However, as positive as seeing Guardians around a hub area is, Renegades continues the downward trend of making Destiny feel less like an open world and more like a self-contained menu game. Renegades completely removes the open world exploration and even removes planetary destinations altogether. This trend started with the Pale Heart removing direct interaction with other players. Then Kepler and the Edge of Fate completely removed all public events and lost sectors. And now Renegades has completely removed any and all real destination outside of a central hub, which is something that you see in the seasonal model. Is you have a central hub and that's it. This central hub specifically is where you go to interact with vendors, similar to what we've had at, the farm at the launch of Destiny 2. You went there for a little bit and then you moved on. And that's what this feels like. It feels like the farm 2.0, except Unironically, the farm had more going on for it than the Tharsis outpost, as you could actually play soccer with the other players on the farm. Renegades removes the lifeblood of Destiny and instead provides the seasonal model experience, which is what Renegades is. It's a big scam. This is not an expansion. You are not paying for a $40 expansion. You're paying for a $40 season. Renegades feels like seasonal content which is detached from the world of Destiny. Loading into the Lawless frontier is not loading into a world where you can hang out and explore, doing public events, exploring lost sectors, but rather it's more akin to the Nether or the Reclaim activities in Ash and Iron. Actually, I would argue and say those seasonal activities are far more generous with exploration, as they actually had true hidden secrets in the Nether, and both the Nether and Reclaim gave you time to actually go around and explore. The Lawless Frontier presents timers that expire, so you don't have the freedom to just explore. These Nether-like activity locations that no one really should be hoodwinked into believing that this Lawless Frontier is actually a destination, because it's not. Calling these activities destinations is calling Gambit a destination. These are pre-designed game mode maps that are limited in what you can actually do or explore, and they do not provide the same value as a brand new location. You are paying for a seasonal game mode map. People didn't like Kepler as a new location, not because it was a full destination. People didn't like Kepler because it was shitty designed and it was boring as hell. After replaying the campaign again, there's actually only two real missions similar to that of seasons or the episodes. The opening mission and then the final mission. There's a total of 9 missions that rehash the Lawless Frontier activities. A handful of these missions simply use the maps for missions, whereas 90% of the campaign has you one-for-one play the endgame activities. The factions. Then we went to Venus on a bounty hunt mission. Then we did the Europa mission, which are all in like actual exfil missions that you can do at in-game. How fucking lazy, dude. That is one. Let's see, that's 5, 6. No, like, yeah, that's 5 missions so far of the same fucking shit that you already do. By the way, if you all want to know how this is just another copy fucking paste, look down below where let me move where it says illicit blade battery. Yeah, that's the portal buff for all portal activities. That's how you know that this is just another like the regular ass activity. We are not doing anything unique or special. This is aha, got your ass bitch Bungie moment, because you can't sit there and say, no, it's original. No, it's fucking not. It's a fucking portal activity. You go to Mars 4 times in the same map. 2 of those missions are sabotage portal missions, and you go to Europa 2 times. One is a smuggler activity, and the second is just using the map for random fights. You go to Venus for 2 bounty hunts, and the last one uses the Venus map for random objectives. I repeat, 90% of the campaign is playing the main Renegade activities as the campaign missions themselves. This is exactly the same practice of seasons and episodes. Hell, episode Heresy concluded just running around the Dreadnought in the Nether activity like you did for the past 4 months. Renegades campaign feels like it less like a paid campaign and more like a tutorial for the seasonal content. Which is funny enough that that's exactly what it is. Bungie does a great job of setting up and explaining all the different activities, how Renegades mechanics in the activities work. I will say that is a good thing that they actually they do a good enough job to actually educate you on actually how to do the thing. So good on them. However, for $40, providing a seasonal model for content is not acceptable and is overall lazy. It feels like a scam, and it shows that Bungie would rather cut corners instead of providing the players with a full-fledged Destiny 2 experience that they deserve. Oh, but we're not done talking about the campaign experience yet. Oh, hell no. Renegades continues the sin of seasonal content in the fact that you spend 40% of your time running back and forth, talking to people. In fact, I counted how many times you run back and forth in like 7 hours. 42 times. And it wasn't all to get cutscenes or voice lines. A large part of the time, it was just to further the mission and get a mobile text box. This started with Edge of Fates, and it's infected Renegades, and it's 100% abused.
All right, I heard you could decode something for me. Yeah, I've got these plans that we gotta find out. We gotta find out what Bael's up to. So I was told that you can decrypt them. Why can't you just talk? What the fuck is this? Reading Rainbow? Okay. I mean, fair enough. Well, who the fuck thought this was a great narrative design? Great storytelling, Bungie. Fantastic.
And the fact that the biggest part of the story and the campaigns are the syndicates, and not a damn one of them have voice lines. The voice lines, the voice actor, all you get is mobile text boxes like you're playing a mobile gacha game. It's hilarious that Destiny Rising is an actual mobile gacha game and actually has voice actors for its vendors, but the syndicates you spend a large part of time running around doing tasks for doesn't have a single voice actor. Oh, it gets worse. Bungie padded the campaign time by having you simply run around doing tasks for people with no real reason. For example, one time you'll be talking to the drifter on Tharsis, and then you'll go to orbit, and then you'll fly all the way to the tower to then talk to Zavala in his office, only to get a mobile text box. Holy shit. I don't understand literally why they make you go all this fucking way to go to his office. You literally roll up into his office, you put the ghost on the table, and it literally, what's up, outsider? It literally, you just get a mobile dialogue. You fly all the way. They make you fly all the way to talk to this asshole for a mobile text box. This is the kind of shit that people hate about Bungie and the content delivery. No. No one wants to waste their time going back and forth only to get text boxes. This is quite literally the meaning of this shit could have been an email. That's how half-assed the interaction is. And you can't be like, well, games like Pokemon does it. Bitch, this isn't Nintendo. We're talking about Bungie. The campaign felt so half-assed. Back and forth. You could have shaved out about an hour of time off the campaign, removing the stupid shit. I kid you not, there was a task to talk to a main character, then talk to the Syndicate leader, then go back and place 3 banners in the hub, only to go back and talk to the Syndicate leader, only for them to proceed to play the generic Lawless Frontier portal activity. That's the campaign experience. Oh, let's not talk about the fucking bar. I forgot about the whole sitting down and having conversation. Like, guys, you're no longer going to a computer. Now you're taking a drink every time. We're gonna go to the bar, baby. It's crazy how we had a seasonal hub in the form of the Helm, where the community complained about having to go back and fly back and forth to sit there and listen to dialogue on a projector.
My quest tab says I need to go to a holo projector. But why? I just walked right past the guy. He's right there. He's right. You know what? Whatever. All right. I'm going to talk to you.
Guardian, good to see you.
we got another task for you. It's a lot of boring shit, but here you go. Oh, by the way, go find me. Come find me.
But why? I just walked right past the guy. He's right there. He's right. You know, whatever. All right.
Back to the holo projector. I've got something important to talk to you about.
Okay, that's great dialogue.
Guardian, good to see you. You're always doing a great job with these tasks. Hey, I need you to come speak to me personally. Thanks.
What? Huh? Huh? Okay.
No.
But
There.
what?
No.
Okay.
Wait.
Yeah?
There. Over. No. Yeah. Over here. Over here. Over here. So, hey.
What the fuck is going on? Fix your damn game, Bungie. This is boring as fuck.
Well, Bungie decided to bring that back in the seasonal annoyance that it was with Renegades. That's right, by having you sit on a fucking bar 7 times. You just sit there hearing some generic exposition. Oh, it's story time. Time to sit at the bar and get drunk. I swear, you could make an actual drinking game based on how many times you had to go talk to someone and how many times you had to be forced to sit at the bar to hear exposition, even though they clearly used the ghost phone call option later in the campaign, which is fucking funny because Bungie forces you to fly to a specific location or the derelict node just to listen to a phone call. Speak with Eris and load IV your ghost on the what the fuck? On the derelict. You can't make this shit up. You can't make this shit up, man. So you go to orbit, you go to the tower, you get a mobile text box, and you fly back to orbit. You fly to the derelict. Has been between the syndicates. And now you get a fucking phone call. Why couldn't you just get that from the tower? Why couldn't you just why could we just not call from the tower? Why is it wasting your fucking time?
Someone's on the line.
Guardian, I bring unsettling news.
$40 experience, baby.
It's because we're good at our jobs. It's true.
Now, the syndicates play a role in both the campaign and the end game content. For the sake of transparency, the syndicates take up a good chunk of the campaign, yet have the least impact on the overall story, except for 2 things, maybe 3. Cracking the code, getting a shuttle, and 3, getting syndicate goons dressed up to help us out in a mission. Outside of that, you could remove the syndicates from the campaign and nothing would be missed except for about 80% of the campaign, because most of the campaign is doing generic ass tasks that provide a 0 impact on the actual fucking story. The syndicates used as fetch quest and filler task, though you'll spend most of your time fighting the syndicates throughout the campaign. However, none of these factions provide anything new. I mean, the Tharsis Reformation is just Vex and clothes. That's it. They have clothes now. Bungie, the story writers, really broke the bank on these ideas, and it shows the minimal change in behavior and how the Vex fight. Like literally, they just the Vex of clothes. Oh my God, they have clothes! Isn't that funny?
You know, they're wearing clothes.
Crime and wearing clothes are what all individuals do.
The Pikers are still generic ass Fallen, but at least they ported over the same changes from Edge of Fate. For the Fallen, those kind of Fallen are here too, except they don't have infections. They don't have STDs. The Totality Division, the only thing these Cabal bring to the table is the fact that they look like the Goombas from the Mario Bros movie. You'll never unsee that. However, the Syndicates provide a more detailed role in the in-game activity. Once you beat the actual campaign, you'll unlock the Syndicate War, allowing you to take up a banner and rank up the faction of your choice. By doing bounties for those Syndicates, higher levels equal more benefits such as upgrades to your Renegade score streaks. Yes, that's what they are. You'll unlock loot benefits such as getting a +1 to all your tiers of loot after reaching the max faction rank. You'll also get shader for each faction. You get weekly packages delivered based on your performance as well. You'll be able to buy upgrades for your lightsaber, target by specific weapons, and overall, this is where you'll interact with most of your loot experience. Can also freely change syndicates with no downside. You can blitz and max out all syndicates or take your time, but it's intended to take the full several months to unlock everything. Now, before we jump into the actual activities of Renegades, we've got to talk about the mechanics of the abilities, as Bungie labels them. Let's be brutally honest. These are Call of Duty score streaks. If you call these abilities, these score streaks abilities, and believe they're abilities, you are delusional. By the way, I looked at COD, their actual official website. Nowhere do they consider score streaks abilities. They are mechanics. And the use of abilities is lazy. Calling them abilities is lazy, especially for Bungie to make you think you're getting something new outside of the expansion when that's not true, nor is it impactful to the greater scale of the games, like actual abilities such as subclass, text, fragments, aspects, all the things that actually impact the wider range of the game. Tell me, when was the last time you used dark matter in Renegades? Right, because dark matter isn't an ability, it's just an expansion mechanic that's been abandoned in Edge of Fate already. Anyways, what about the mechanics? How do they fare? I want to say that Lightfall did a better job of introducing real abilities in the form of Strand and actually providing the upgrades to allow you to play with the stronger version up front. Renegades gives you a few of these score streaks at base, which waters down their usability in the campaign, making them essentially pointless. I never once really felt like, oh, I need to interact with this, because they were boring and lame and a waste of time. Now, if you replay those with those score streaks upgraded to their maximum, it's a very noticeable experience. It's weird that Bungie didn't use the campaign to showcase the mechanics at their strongest to really incentivize you to want to grind them out later. Especially when they're strong, it's actually enjoyable to rock around with these score streaks. Weird choice, Bungie. Weird choice. Let's be honest. The score streaks are 100% impactful for any of the Lawless Frontier activities. It changes the entire difficulty of the level. The Behemoth, which is the Star Wars AT-ST, is probably the strongest, best score streak, even at its unupgraded form. It will destroy both combatants and guardians alike. The Vex Bubble, which protects you and damages enemies. Scan, which not only scans the environment, but chests and collectibles, but it also scans guardians and their locations. Strafe Run, which is essentially the Call of Duty cluster strike. It's all right. Revitalize, which heals you, but also fills up your super and ability energy at max rank. The Piker Mortar and the badass Piker Sparrow that is fast as hell and hits hard. Both those are really cool. The Piker Sparrow, mwah, chef's kiss. Overall, once fully upgraded, these score streaks have major impacts on the flow of the activity and allow some of the harder content to be trivialized. You can essentially at some point spam them once you collect the ability crates that refill your charges. What about the actual activities themselves you will be doing throughout Renegades? Since the campaign is essentially a seasonal tutorial for the endgame, let's just group it all together and let's just talk about it. let's talk about the invasion mode and the contested zone mode, as this is where you can get the best loot and where if you hate PvP, you will also still hate PvP. Though I put a little asterisk on that, and we'll get to it in a minute. I spent about an hour grinding out the invasion mode here, and this is how it went, right? It's less about the most skilled PvPer, and it's more about who has everything upgraded and who has the behemoth. Who else can call it in quicker? Because once you get that behemoth, you can destroy the other behemoth as soon as possible. And if you don't have a behemoth and you go up against a behemoth, if you don't have a revitalized max to be able to thunder crash a behemoth, you're fucked. I found invasion the easiest PvP I've ever done because all I had to do was get my super, call in a behemoth for both 1v1s or 1v3s, and I destroyed players. Now, sometimes you do have to be creative when you go up against other players with behemoths, and it becomes a game of numbers and collecting crests to hit max points before losing out on tokens, which is visually bugged because you get only 3 strikes and you're out, but it shows 4 tokens. It's kind of weird. But when I tell you that the behemoth is a game changer, it literally determines the outcome of many of these invasions or fights.
All right, it's time to try out the new lightsaber. That's right, I'm gonna 1v1 this guy in invasion. Come on, sucker. I'm gonna beat your ass. Ah! What was that? Ah! Fuck, dude, I just spawned. Why is the spawn right here? I didn't even have a chance to respond to being spawn camped. What's next? How the hell did they even get their behemoth up before I even spawned? How is this fucking fair? Ah! Son of a bitch, I just called in my behemoth and I don't even get 2 seconds to spawn in to get into it and before I die. Like, what the fuck? Who designed this shit? Screw this.
Now, for the contested zones, it's fine. I do think most people either avoid it or will avoid it or just let themselves die to get a random chance at the lightsaber. Overall, I do think that the invasions are fine. I mean, if you don't like PvP, all you can do is just let yourself die for the chance of the red lightsaber. I would recommend avoiding invasions if you don't have a fully upgraded kit of score streaks, or you'll just have a bad time. For contested zones where you get invaded, it's not that big of a deal unless your random matchmaking team sucks, or if the invader decides to BM you and farm you for kills versus actually getting the crest. Most of my experience is having randoms die off in a corner and they die 3 times and the invader just pops off, goes away. And then you proceed to do the activity as normal anyways. And let's be honest, most of the time you have more than enough tokens to be able to complete these activities. And if you don't, it's not because of the invader, it's because your team sucks. Sorry, someone's got to tell you. However, like I said, casual players that are already struggling will absolutely hate this mode, which, if I'm being honest, are almost exactly the same thing with the 3 factions, which if you hate all that, I mean, you do it for the higher chance of better loot. You'll do these contested areas, or if you want to rank up the syndicates via bounties, you'll need to interact with the contested zones eventually. We talked about the invasion and the contested zones, but let's focus specifically on what you actually do in the Lawless Frontier. There are 3 different types of activities: smuggle, bounty hunt, and sabotage, which, if I'm being honest, are all almost exactly the same thing, with the same 3 factions, with the same 3 maps, with the same, and just all in rotation, right? It's all in rotation. Each activity will have you go through different parts of the map, similar to the Nether, reclaim activities, with each stage raising the level of difficulty as you progress. Each has different objectives that you must complete to progress. There are the intel collection objectives, which has 2 different versions. The one version is Gambit, where you collect the motes And the second version is collect pools of energy at a max of 3. Then you have to fight a wave of yellow bars and do it multiple times because each dunk is only worth 15% and you have to get to 100%. It's a long drawn out process and it's one of the worst boring activities in the whole game. Another objective is capturing plates and shooting explodables. There's other objectives like arming bombs, doing mini onslaught waves. There are specific familiar objectives like Warframe excavation activity where you kill specific enemies, dunk energy to power the drill with the added objective of dunking exotic engrams. Then there's the Warframe hijack activity where you need to move a stolen payload. Yeah, it's the Warframe activity. Pick up the shit and then you do Gambit. It starts off with Warframe and afterward it's just the same old shit. And they glow. Now we're doing a hijack mission for a Warframe. Yep. We're doing hijack for Warframe, guys. Exactly. And lastly, each activity has a boss of some sort in some part of the activity itself. That is what you'll be doing most of the campaign and in-game. Though I will say that what makes these activities bearable compared to other seasonal activities is the enemy density is very, very high. And you can go mindlessly slaughtering waves of enemies, giving you something to distract yourself from the fact that you're playing a seasonal activity. The exotic mission, Fire and Ice, also played during the campaign, which is why I don't consider it an original mission because it's not. However, I think the consensus, along with my own, is that Fire and Ice is actually pretty fun. Sure, I think it's compared a lot to the Whisper exotic mission, and overall, I think the Whisper is still better. But I think Fire and Ice was a unique experience that was a little fun. Mechanic balancing light and dark, even though the story actually does nothing to explain why the Taken and Ascendant Realm are on Europa and why the Praxis Order has control over it since the Witness is dead and the Taken need a new leader to function on their own. Yeah, I really do like this mission, by the way. I just want to be clear, like this exotic mission is actually pretty reminiscent of the Whisper, though I think it being kind of like the Whisper's little sibling. When did we enter a pyramid? You didn't. We entered the Ascendant Realm, which is supposed to be the Praxic Temple, which is not really explained at all why the fuck this is a thing. Just so we're all clear, this is not explained whatsoever. Yet the Imperium Order are found working with the Taken during the exotic mission. So if it makes me wonder if the 9 are using the Taken, and if that's the case, why weren't they used more outside of this exotic mission? Either way, it's a plot hole that even if it's explained in the lore tabs, it's a plot hole that's not explored in the main story delivery. I'm tired of people saying it's in the lore tab. Who gives a fuck? I will play a game to play a game. I don't care, Bife. I'm sorry. If I wanted to read a fucking book, I'd read a fucking book. Now, Bungie did fix the final boss fight recently, where the final boss, the platforms would disappear, but Bungie has stopped them from happening, allowing for more easy play. Overall, solid environment, solid experience, and it nets you the exotic Praxis Blade, aka the lightsaber, with the callus once you go back and farm for them, right? The dungeon! Lastly, in the line of activities that you are paying for, the dungeon. I played with LFG. I play solo, and my opinion of the dungeon has not changed. I like the dungeon. Truly, I do. I thought, just for reference, my favorite dungeon is Warlord's Ruin. The environment of the castle feels like Dark Souls. The boss fights are actually fun. It's a great experience, but it just, in my opinion, has shitty loot, save a couple of choice items. Equilibrium is nothing like Warlord's Ruin, and is actually probably one of the easiest dungeons we've gotten. Probably the root of nightmares of dungeons. However, for a dungeon, before people freak out, I think that's fine. For a dungeon experience, I think that's fine. Sometimes you want to watch Marvel's Infinity War style movie, right? You get that real intense action fighting, and other times you want to watch Tropic Thunder. The dungeon is a popcorn popper is what I'm getting at. You can chill back, have a good time, which I know for a lot of diehard in-game players complained on Twitter about how the dungeon was too easy, especially the first encounter. Listen, I'm cool with it. I think having a chiller in-game experience once in a while is a good thing. The problem, and I'm going to be fair to those in-game players, the problem is Bungie used to release multiple dungeons in a year, and now we only get one a year, which limits the enjoyability for certain players. Also, if you thought Bungie was going to bring back Explore mode with dungeons like they did with the events that they did with the 9,
You serious?
sorry, that costs money, and Bungie is cutting corners since they used all the money on Star Wars IP. Equilibrium continues the trend of having quests built into them, which is pretty cool, and it does add secret encounters, almost like adding more mini fights and activities to the dungeon. The downside is that you have to go out of your way to do these encounters. Now, when we're talking about the mainstay encounters, the first encounter has you go around disarming a wall, to get access to sparrows, which then you go around and collect taken energy, which then lets you go around and disrupt the enemy shields and kill them. Meanwhile, you have a bunch of ATSTs spawning down, and you have waves and waves of enemies until you kill pretty much everything. And that's the first encounter. That sum up, that's pretty much what you'll be doing. The second encounter is by far the worst encounter, in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinions. It's just Golron 2.0, or akin to just being the Gladiator, but with lightsabers, because it attacks you in the same way as both the Gladiator and Golron. You generally have to bait him into traps to break his shield, like a Looney Tunes episode.
A trapdoor, no doubt. Very ingenious.
Then you have to chase him after low health, where you finish him off in a corner. The last encounter for a final fight, we finally get to fight a human, or what I'm assuming is a human, a Dredgen, but it's actually just a wizard guardian without a ghost, but I still don't care. It's obvious this is the Palpatine of the Star Wars crossover, and I think it's fun. It's a fun encounter. It's pretty simple. Run around, kill guards in the normal room, and kill or compel the shadow versions of the boss in the Senate realm, and then destroy the taken orbs, and you straight up do DPS, and that's pretty much it. Like, sure, there's the electric Teslas you have to worry about, and shooting tickle fingers and all that jazz, because if you don't, you'll just die because the damage ramps up. Overall, I'm very loosely summarizing it, but it's a quick, easy encounter. It's fun. And it will net you, that's right, overall the boss will net you the exotic chewy crossbow and the taken black lightsaber. That's right, the take is pretty dope. Now the crossbow I do have after my second run, and it's not meant for everyone. It really not. It's cool, but it sucks. All right. Why do we play Destiny 2? Okay, let's rephrase that for people who don't play anymore. Why do we play looter shooters? Loot. That's right. About the loot, Mr. Gaming Counselor. What about it? What about the glorious loot? Let's talk about the blaster weapon types. This was introduced with Renegades, very unique, very first-timey, very Star Wars. I'm gonna be honest, the mini game of deheating your blaster weapons at the right time to get a perfect vent quickly, that load mechanic, it's nice, but it's also really annoying. Sometimes you just want to reload easy and not have to play a mini game every time you shoot your gun. While fighting through, something that the blaster provides is reload canceling. That is something that is unique, is that you could partially reload or deheat and continue to shoot. So that is something, if you were in a panic or you're about to die, oh crap, I need to shoot my gun, you could do that. It's actually really nice. Overall, blasters, they're fine. There are some obviously strong picks, but I don't think the blasters themselves are game breaking. First off, we just talked about the dungeon, so let's start working on that and work backwards toward the campaign. The dungeon loot is actually amazing. I don't think there is a gun in line that isn't good. Now, are any of these meta-defining weapons? No. No, that may change later, but generally the most of the dungeon loot outside of the exotics and don't really end up being meta-defying. That's just a trend with dungeon weapons. They don't really end up being meta-defying. They might be useful, but they're not meta-defining. And that's very true for Equilibrium. Except for the exotics, looking at you, Augur's Finality. Wink, wink. But the dungeon weapons are Star Wars weapons. Even the sword apparently is also a Clone War weapon, which I would have never guessed. The dungeon exotic, you know, the crossbow, Shewie's crossbow, is all right. It's fun. Nothing to go tell your mom about. But not everything needs to be a DPS. Sometimes you just need an exotic that's fun. So it's there for you Star Wars Chewie fans. The dungeon armor is probably the best armor in the game, in my opinion, for sword builds, as you get class and grenade energy while using swords by increasing the lunge distance and damage. You could also look like a Jedi using it. The campaign weapons themselves have some teeth. The Han Solo blaster is probably the best weapon in the campaign. It's the legendary Forerunner, and it slaps in both PvE and PvP, and it's great for invasions. It's good just for pairing with double specials like the Lightsaber. The SMG is great for PvP. The 180 hand cannon is fine. I hear in PvP it has its builds. Not sure in PvE. And the sniper rifle is good for multiple reasons. Granted, there is a bug with it doing crazy damage, but overall people are doing DPS rotations with it and Chaperone. It's an interesting weapon worth collecting at least. The sidearm it's a sidearm. And if that's your jam, it's your bread and butter, I guess. Overall, loot is good and unique, and there's definitely picks in the expansion that stand out. But whether this is worth the $40 in value is subjective to you. At last, we come to the sweet narrative. And when I say sweet, I mean ass. Unless you like ass, and it's not the good kind of ass. This is like the moldy ass that your grandma probably has. Lastly, but definitely the least interesting, the narrative. Sorry, Bife, but no matter how lore masters want to glaze the story, it's absolutely moldy ass. It's the worst part of the entire seasonal campaign. Save the interactions between Drifter, Eris, and Blue, and I would even argue Eris and Lodi.
It's Blue, named her because of that sunny personality.
Bite me! I need to talk to the Guardian. With my voice. That was healing.
These are probably the points of the narrative that carry the entire story and save its ass. I really do like Lodi. I know he's hated by many people, but I like him. Outside of those choice interactions, the story itself is very bland and overall boring, being dressed up by Star Wars to make it more interesting than what it really is. But that's what you can expect from a fan fiction writer who thinks they are an innovative narrative director.
I'm the narrative director for Destiny 2, and so that means it's the job of me and my team to make you laugh and make you cry and make you go, whoa, I totally forgot about this thing from 8 years ago. How did they remember? It's because we're good at our jobs. It's true.
I will never understand gassing up the worst narrative writers in Destiny history, which have been going downhill since episode Echoes, where they introduced a villain who is a canonic, and I mean, it's actually canon, lesbian wife beater. The core story that you spend over 75% of the campaign interacting is the plot point of Star Wars: A New Hope. That's right, Bungie's attempt at inspiration is actually adaptation, which, to educate all the Bungie defenders and the content creators glazing Bungie, adaptation is about reimagining the same narrative in a new context, whereas inspiration is about taking a fragment to launch an original creation. Now tell me, does spending an entire half of Renegades trying to decode stolen parts from an Imperial army, disclosing the fact that they're building a super death weapon in space, sound like inspiration? That's totally inspiration. Totally. Not a New Hope at all. Now, it's not like Spaceballs with their parody of the Death Star with the Mega Maid. The Nightfall weapon literally looks like the Death Star, but has a different shape. It's like, hey, let me steal your homework, but let me change how I write it down. The other core part of the story is stopping the Death Star. I mean, the Nightfall station from activating and destroying the weapon, right? We want to destroy it, which is totally not how the New Hope, you know, it's totally not parts of other Star Wars story where they destroy the second Death Star and bring the shields down and all that. So no, totally just inspired. Totally inspired. Only inspiration. Only. That's right. Only. Funny enough, the parts that are Destiny are actually the worst parts of the whole story. Save Bael, who is the Kylo Ren inspired villain who starts out being a total badass, only to be relegated to a basic whiny bitch. I mean, she could have even done the Force with the Void Push. We literally, and then he throws a fit, which is something that Kylo Ren does too.
No.
It's because we're good at our jobs.
It's true.
Who's also now the worst villain. And that's saying a lot because we have Maya fucking Sundaresh, but Bael has become one of the worst Destiny villains we've ever had. And I'm not kidding. Allison Lurs watched The Last Jedi and thought, best movie ever. I like Kylo Ren. Let's create a shittier character, cringy millennial fanfiction version in Destiny 2. Bael is literally a generic ass rich dude with daddy issues who is desperate to have someone recognize him, whether it be the Nine or the Drifter, and he has to stick it to the man because he's tired of that Guardians and the Vanguard have power and control, and that there isn't an actual governing system in place.
Dad, I need money to kill all the Guardians. It's not fair. Timmy died and came back with superpowers, and now he's bossing me around. I hate it. I want to build a super death weapon of mass destruction.
Listen here, kid. I'm busy. I'm working on the next collab for Destiny. Daddy needs to fill his garage with some more Ferraris. I'm thinking Scooby-Dooby-Doo. Now, I don't have time to give an unwanted bastard like you money. Now get out of here.
Dad, everyone else, Dad is cool and is willing to buy them a super death weapon of mass destruction. Hey, how about I turn off the safety lock so the death weapon kills normal people too? Like the other weapon foundries, all but Tex Mechanica, that is.
Player! I always knew you were my favorite child. Damn straight. Listen, you're a chip off the old block. What can I say? Let's do business, player. That's right. Who am I to deny my little mass murdering, overachieving, angsty teenager? How am I gonna ruin your plans like that, player? I got you. Just make sure you don't miss fucking Vice. Don't miss them. Blast their ass to Canada or something. I don't know. Get them out of here.
Yay! You're the best dad ever. I love you. Thank you for accepting me. Yay!
So his entire motive is to simply kill all Guardians to solve his problems, even though not too long ago, a being controlling darkness showed up at Earth's doorstep, threatening all life in the galaxy, along with an invading Shadow Legion, also ignoring the fact that the Vanguard protected the city from multiple attacks, including the Vex, and the fact that we How about the Red Legion, who are the Cabal, who Bael just so happens to be working with now? There's a reason Bungie reuses villains like Skolas and Taniks and Oryx over and over again. They cannot make a good villain to save their lives. This is what happens when you hire shitty high school girl fanfiction writers to tell a story. Not every damn villain needs to be some misunderstood person that needs to be saved or redeemed. We don't need to feel sorry for them, bitch. We just need a good villain to fucking hate and want to kill. Handsome Jack is a great villain who is funny and people love to hate and want dead. Ain't no one want a misunderstood villain. Sometimes evil assholes is just what we want. They just need to be evil assholes. But for the love of God, stop making villains based on shitty fan fictions. You got your wife beater villain, and now we've got a spoiled rich kid villain who wants to be an anarchist. I apologize on behalf of all millennials and anyone who creates content with the intent to be based for millennials, because even I don't like this shit. The main Destiny focus is the prophecy. The same narrative flows from Edge of Fate and continues to be what causes the Fate saga to be very weak. Number 3 of the 9 is dead, and now it's impacting different aspects of Earth. Resources. Vanguard is keeping the prophecy a secret, and the reason is because they don't want to cause chaos, which is funny because the entire lifetime of Destiny has been chaos and unrest. And I mean, a being of darkness literally rolled up on Earth and no one could stop it. I think telling the people about the prophecy is the least of things to hide. It's just a little contrived plot point to cause conflict that ultimately leads nowhere, because by the end they choose to tell people about the prophecy and nothing happens except for the people don't trust the Vanguard much. That's it. No, it's like, oh, you didn't tell us. Well, we don't trust you now. 6 of the 9 creates a fake weapon in Bael, having him go on to the Praxis Temple, giving him stasis and the Praxis Blade, and also bends time to create the Imperium Army and the Nightfall Station. I hate how time manipulation is so commonplace and a common trend with Bungie storytelling. Instead of telling unique stories, everything we have is time travel for plot device or something to do with time manipulation. We have time control for plot devices. Listen, using the Vex in Quarters of Time was a big event to bring back Saint 14, but now it's so casual and commonplace that time travel and manipulation feels like it's everywhere. Like, will everyone has fucking access to create and control time just to fit whatever the narrative device needs to be? It's lazy, and it showcases that Bungie writers have wrote themselves in a circle and have to use these plot devices or time travel in this case, to get them out. Anyway, the goal of number 6 is to use Bael to tithe using sword logic. Yeah, a hive method, which was based down from the, passed down from the worm gods, which was passed down from the witness. Crazy how we keep going backwards to the light and darkness saga instead of new creative narratives, almost like the previous lore was more impactful and interesting. 6 wants to cause an extinction level event using the Nightfall Station to kill all Guardians, allowing 6 to create an ascendant realm, allowing them to escape without a celestial body. Apparently, everyone can just create ascendant realms. Bungie really is the Oprah of Destiny with these realms. Oryx has an ascendant realm. Mara has an ascendant realm. Savathun has an ascendant realm. Eris has an ascendant realm. The Dredgen from the dungeon has an ascendant realm. A celestial god wants an ascendant realm. It feels like the episode of Marvel Loki where Loki opens the drawer and finds a full thing of Infinity Stones, realizing that what he thought was a big deal is actually just a nothing burger. But it feels worse in this game that hasn't earned it. In order to achieve his goals, Bael has Barrent Imperium on his side, a faction of Cabal that wasn't happy the Cabal were being led by the Empress Kyle. Eerily similar to the Red Legion and how they defected from Callus. But it's also eerily similar that the fact that our Temu Darth Vader, sorry, you might as well call him Death because all he does is die. Premier Loom is one of the most useless boss fights. And I don't mean like as a useless villain, like he truly is useless. It's almost like he's a parody of not Darth Vader, but he's a parody of Dark Bucket from Spaceballs. He doesn't do anything. He gets a real cool intro where he walks aboard the ship and he just tanks blaster shots, but he doesn't actually do anything.
Make you cry and make you go, whoa.
He just stands there like a wall, menacingly, as his goons kill everything. And he just sits there, staring menacingly. Then when you finally face off against him, you do it in a reused Red War asset room, facing off against him in the same fashion as mission bosses from Red War, dealing with two goons running around fighting the boss. It's actually funny because the fight leading to the final boss fight is just a rehash of the elevator fight from the Scarlet Keep strike.
The elevator begins to move.
Oh man, is this Sabbath's
I was just thinking it's the Shadow Keep strike, bro.
Yeah. Oh, there's a banner.
I've seen this room before. Bro, it's literally the Red War room! There was literally a Cabal boss here. I've played these games before. It's okay, they can just keep reskinning things. And man, you know, give me Curse of Osiris 2 for the next expansion, you know? Let's bring back Panoptes 3.
But the mini boss you face against going up before you go to Premiere is more of a threat than Premiere himself. I'm not kidding. All Premiere does is a generic slam and shoots you with his pistol that is almost identical to Gaul's pistol. It's a shittier Gaul 2.0 boss fight. In fact, he even mentions being legend like Gaul, but instead of Gaul who uses super abilities, Premiere goes Super Saiyan Red and just gets angrier versus actually doing anything different. The Temu Darth Vader looking Cabal doesn't even use a lightsaber. Doesn't have any Jedi-like powers, even though Bungie created a new power called Eclipse that could have been used to create any kind of powers. Like if you were going to rip off Star Wars in the plot, you might as well do the boss fights in the same fashion to make it interesting. It's sad when a mini boss is more interesting than the final boss, but even after we beat Premiere, he runs like a bitch, and it seems like he survives unless he was on the Death Star when it blows up, which, funny enough, continuing the Red War home comparison, you know, Red War at home, Red War also had the Almighty, which also had to do similar objectives, going through disabling the super weapon. It's funny. It's very obvious that Almighty was already inspired by the Death Star. But then here we have the Star Wars expansion, and it feels like it's inspired by Red War, especially when they reuse Red War assets and Gaul-like boss fights. It's too funny, man. Also, it's even funnier when Red War did better inspiration of Star Wars than the supposed inspiration expansion, which literally just copy-pasted the Death Star in a different shape. By the way, the story kicks off after Drifter has a vision given by the Nine showing him Blue and Eris and how they'll die. And Drifter proceeds to run around scared 90% of the story until Honor, the generic-ass Jedi character who you could remove from the story and you wouldn't miss anything, has to be the one to tell Drifter to be a con artist, which causes Drifter to figure out how to beat Bael. I kid you not. Drifter has a midlife crisis throughout the story, and it takes a Jedi to tell him the obvious.
Unprincipled coward. That vision is playing you right into their hands.
You won't tell me. Blue won't talk to me. What am I supposed to do?
You really don't know. You are the most authority-resistant, rule-breaking swindler in the city. What does that man do to a god?
Con him.
Why is he so retarded?
Because we're good at our jobs.
It's true.
In fact, she even says the obvious to him, like, what is the story? What is the story? And also, why is it that all 3 plot points have been people from the Vanguard or interact with the main story that are having midlife crises? Everyone seems to have a midlife crisis. Akor had midlife crisis in Edge of Fate. Zavala in The Final Shape. We had Osiris in Lightfall. Like, everyone has to have a midlife crisis. Everyone? Really? Now we have Drifter? Really? The best part of the story is when Drifter talking to Blue, which, by the way, is so damn funny. But it's also annoying that at the beginning, they shoehorn the R2-D2 intro by having Blue not be able to talk normally, only to use that another robot in the same fashion later in the story. After 11 years, we finally see a straight kiss. It is funny. It is hilarious. I've never been one to jump on this bandwagon of like Bungie is woke and yada yada. It is, whatever. I don't care. But I do think it's fucking funny that we have an old man kissing a robot before we actually had a straight man, a real woman and real man kiss each other. 11 years. It took 11 years for that to happen. But it happened, and overall, I'm glad it was the Drifter and Eris, because I think their connection was very well written. And like I said, they carry the story, and it was kind of nice to see them kind of have a little bit of a bow, which, if I'm a betting man, someone's going to die in the future expansion, because why not? Bungie loves to try to shoehorn a death scene somewhere. Oh, and Ido is in the story. I know I said you could remove Honor, the generic Jedi character, and it wouldn't change the story, but Ido literally is the definition of being shoehorned in. She provides nothing to the plot. She does nothing. She's just there. She's there for a traumatic experience. Like, oh my God, they're all dead. I see dead people. But she really provides zero, like, really? Keith David returns as Zavala, which was something I didn't expect. I figured Zavala's arc was done and that's all we'd hear. I didn't expect to hear Zavala to come back and have actual voice lines. And for some reason, the Vanguard, with his character, refuses to help even after finding out that the Death Star, or Nightfall, had the ability to attack from anywhere in Sol. The connection is very loose and not really well written. The Vanguard conflict is very contrived and makes zero sense. Not only that, but are we really going to ignore the fact that the Witness was able to connect the Veil and, you know, the Traveler from across the galaxy? We're just going to ignore that detail. We're not going to think for an instant that someone can make a Death Star weapon, or even the fact that Gaul had made the Almighty previously, which also used the power of the sun to destroy planets from across the galaxy. We're gonna ignore all that. Nope. Crow would 100% be helping. Let's be honest, he would be out there in the Lawless land, considering he's dealt with the Lawless Scorn like thick roll. Also, our ghost is nowhere to be found. In fact, there are parts of the story where we have Drifter's ghosts instead of our own personal ghosts. It's really freaking weird. I guess paying for Keith isn't cheap, so Nolan had to take the boot. Also, where are the Rancors? Like, damn, we get ogres and you can make them look like Rancors, act like Rancors for a boss fight. Like, if you're going to do Star Wars, at least do some of the adapt and make some, things that make fucking sense. Rancor is like the easiest one to do. Literally just put in an ogre and call it a Rancor. Overall, Renegades continues the downward trend of Destiny. Renegades does go out of its way to include every little Star Wars reference to a degree that can feel a bit forced, pun intended. A crutch that's continuously leaned upon in lieu of any original ideas. For example, you find yourself trapped in a garbage compactor during the very first mission, rescue someone from an off-brand carbon freezing, and make a jump to light speed while a brooding masked villain angrily watches you escape his grasp and continues to slam his lightsaber into a dead body. Let's be brutally honest. Renegades is a mixed bag. If you love Star Wars and you love Destiny, this is the greatest expansion you ever played, and no one's going to convince you otherwise, which that happens to be a very small population that actually believes that. I would say the biggest of the two camps are Camp 1 that hates it, where over 50% of the community doesn't like Star Wars and its crossover, along with multiple other key issues with the expansion. Meanwhile, the other camp makes about maybe, 45% sees it as a good, solid expansion. They may or may not be jazzed about the Star Wars aspects, but they are able to enjoy what they can of the expansion while still providing criticism for the flaws that they have of it, which honestly is a respectful middle ground. The other percent sees it as the best expansion. Like I said, Star Wars, good criticism is stupid. Bungie do no wrong. I love Star Wars. Beep, bop, boop, bop, bop. I suck your dick. Here's my money. I do reviews. I'm critical. I advocate for the gamers and what is best for the consumers. So I'm going to be far more vocal than most, but most people do want to see Destiny improve and give and provide criticism. Renegades is no different. It's very obvious that Star Wars was used as a mask to mask the lower quality product that obviously cuts corners every turn, and little original thought was actually used to provide a unique and special experience outside of Star Wars, which we have seen from player population shows that not even Star Wars can save or bring back new or returning players. And let's be honest here. People love to say Renegades is good, but you're comparing to Edge of Fate is like comparing a pile of shit to a pile of shit with sprinkles, or a pile of shit to just a regular sandwich. To be nice, if I'm being nice, it's like taking a pile of shit, comparing it to a sandwich and saying, isn't that an improvement? Well, yeah, it is improvement, but why do I give a shit about a sandwich when it had a freaking hamburger, a juicy hamburger in the final shape, or, whatever, insert whatever Forsaken would be, a whole fancy cuisine meal, right? So yeah, sure. Comparing to a pile of shit, a sandwich looks like it's God tier, but is it really God tier? No, it's a fucking sandwich. And that's what Renegades is. It's a fucking sandwich, but it has R2-D2's face on it. Isn't that great, Mom? Anyways, that's my review for the brutally honest focus on Renegades. I don't have any faith in this company. I don't have any faith that they will continue to do right. They are now getting scummier and scummier. This is a massive scam because it's not a true expansion anymore. It is just the seasonal episodic model, it feels like, now dressed as an expansion. And it's very obvious that we're going to get lesser quality content in the future. And Bungie's going to continue to cut corners until the community has more respect for itself. I'm going to be nice and end on that note. The community learns to have more self-respect and demand more, but as long as they eat the shit or the sandwich and say it's a cuisine, Bungie's not going to put any effort to do anything different, and you get what you deserve. And so if you don't like shit, don't be a shit eater. That's how it is. I'm Mr. Gaming Counselor, and I'll see you in the next Brutally Honest review. Peace.